Hello, my name's Diane Strickland, and I offer coaching and support for partners of sex addicts. I'm putting together a series of short videos on topics that I come up against over and over again in my work with partners. And these topics have become myths that are very damaging for partners and often formidable obstacles to overcome in their recovery. So we're going to look at these myths and question them on a lot of different levels. And today's myth is what happens when a woman begins to ask the question, how did I end up here? How did I end up in a life with a sex addict? And the myth is the response to that question that she often gets from books, from articles, from therapists, from credentialed people on YouTube videos who say, you chose a sex addict. You chose someone who would be unavailable to you, who would probably hurt you, abuse you, lie to you, and betray you. You are with a sex addict because you chose to be with a sex addict. Well, you can imagine how devastating that is to hear. So we're going to look at that myth now together. And the first thing I do is to ask a question about reliability. Where is that message coming from? Where does that myth originate? So when I first began to read this and hear this, I did some research. I thought, well, where are they getting this information? How is this being created, this myth that we've chosen a sex addict? And there was no evidence-based research underneath this at all. When I could find someone citing another person when they said this in an article or a book, it was just another person saying the same thing. It was kind of a turtles all the way down thing. There was never any bottom to it. It was a theoretical presumption that had no basis, and the reasoning behind it wasn't clear. The second thing I want to ask about a myth is what is the viewpoint of humanity that it presents, and in particularly about women. Often when a woman was told, well, you chose a sex addict, she would say, well, I didn't know he was a sex addict. How could I choose him? And the other person says to them, you knew. At some level, you knew. So what this suggests about a woman is that she really does not know what she's doing or why she's doing it. And she's encouraged to not really believe that she does. That's a pretty negative viewpoint about who women are in the world and how they're making their way in life. A third way that I want to examine this myth is to ask, does it in fact sound like something else that I already know? And it does. It sounds very much like blame shifting, which is a characteristic of sex addict behavior with their partners. It is the offloading of responsibility for what they have done and the impact that has had on her life onto her. And so now we have the treatment industry saying, don't look at what he did to you. You need to look at what you did to yourself. Blame shifting. That's all it really is. The next thing I look at is what is this generating in results? What does this myth produce when it's put out there? And this is where it gets really serious and upsetting, because when a woman hears this about herself, the result is often she slides into deep depression at best, or she becomes suicidal. And this is because she's already at a place where she can no longer trust her life. She doesn't know what it is, what it's meant. Nothing she understands that was true is true. She can't trust her husband because he's turned out to be someone she doesn't even know, who's lied to her for however long they've been together. And now, when she's told that she chose a sex addict, she's being told that she can't even trust herself. And when that happens, the rug is pulled out from underneath what little is left of her life. That's why we need to address this myth, because it has serious repercussions. And I really don't understand a profession that can be so cavalier with such a destructive assertion about another human being. And the fourth thing I want to look at is, or actually it's the fifth thing, is it possible for me to posit another suggestion, another explanation of why we ended up in this life that we have? So I first want to think about partners of sex addicts. And what do I know about them? Who are they? And in my work over the past 6 years, I've found that partners are the antithesis of a codependent personality. They are very, very strong, incredibly intelligent. Whether or not they're highly educated, they are very intelligent women, very capable. Their capacity for commitment is huge. They are loving. They have many, many interests, lots of relationships. They have often very successful careers, and they're very good at managing their families and their primary relationships. They do so with passion and creativity. They're pretty amazing people. They don't sound like someone who is looking for someone to hurt them. Then we look at sex addicts and who they are and what we know about them now. And we know that they are people who have created two lives. One is a fake life, the one that the partner's in, which is an architectural facade that covers and protects the secret life, where he lives out of completely different set of values and uses deception and lies to cover that up and protect it. That kind of a person, that's a busy person. If you've got two kinds of lives going, you're pretty busy, and you have a lot to do to make that successful, that deception successful. And what you need in order to accomplish that goal is, in fact, a woman just like the one I described. You need someone who's incredibly competent, who is an independent person, isn't clinging to you, isn't afraid of you, has her own interests, and on whom you can depend because you always know she's honest and loyal. You know exactly what she's going to do. She doesn't know what you're going to do, but that's okay. You just need to know what she's going to do, and you always do. So what I'm saying here is, I don't think you chose a sex addict. I have a pretty good hunch that the sex addict chose you. So that's how I would dispel that myth. And I want to underline how incredibly important it is to do so, because there's an awful lot at stake. The level of depression, not wanting to get up in the morning, the suicidal aspect for partners here is very real. And this myth is not helping. And I don't even think it serves anyone in particular. So I'm going to say this one more time. You did not choose a sex addict. I'm pretty sure he chose you because of all the incredible things that you are as a human being. And I want you to remember that. And I want you now to believe in your life and trust it, and know that you can trust yourself. So thank you very much for watching this video about this myth, and I want you to take care now, and we'll talk again soon.